Welcome everybody. It's 9 o'clock, so I'm mindful for us to start on time. First, I'd like to welcome and thank everybody for taking the time to join us today for our final virtual open house of this year. My name is Heather Kidd, and I am the Director of Enrollment Management, as well as the House Director for our Girls Residence Victoria Manor. And I think I should just mention before we go any further, we are actually in the midst of a severe thunderstorm watch right now. So we are all keeping our fingers crossed that the power does not fail us. But if it does, hopefully we'll get right back online sooner rather than later. So if that does happen, we're sorry and we apologize in advance. So for our open house today, you'll be hearing from our head of school, Mr. Muska, and it will be followed by a Q&A with some of our current AC family members. So just a few housekeeping items before we get started. As you heard, I did want to mention that this recording or this session is being recorded. My colleague, Tracy Kolb, she'll be manning our online chat, which is located at the bottom of your screen. So I'm sure you've already visited our website as you had to register for this open house, and you've likely seen our virtual video, so we will not show that again. We really wanted you to hear firsthand from some of our own Albert family on their experiences while here at Albert. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our head of school, Mr. Mark Muska.
Thank you very much, Heather. I appreciate that introduction. I'd like to thank all of our panelists, the students, and Marisha, the parent we have on. Thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your experiences with us. And welcome to all the parents expressing an interest. We're really happy that you've joined us. Everyone here on this call loves to talk about our school, so it's a wonderful opportunity for us to share a little bit more about Albert with you. Albert.College is in its 164th year. So that means we've been educating international and local day students for well over a century and a half. We're a relatively small school. So from grade 7 through to 12, we have just shy of 200 students. So of those 200, it's about 50-50 mix between local day students from Belleville and the surrounding area, Kingston, Napanee, and the county, and the other 50% are made up of international students who come from approximately 15 countries around the world. For those of you joining us on the call that are not quite as familiar with the geography of Canada and of Ontario, Belleville is located basically right in the middle of the eastern portion of the province of Ontario, right on the shores of Lake Ontario. So when you think of the quintessential, great Canadian outdoors that I'm sure you've seen on movies, that really is what Belleville has to offer. I mean, it's quite literally at our doorstep. I mean, the students can walk along the paths of Lake Ontario. It's a 5-minute walk south of us. We're very close to all sorts of camping trips and hiking trails. We've offered dog sledding in the past. Just all of that stuff is right at our doorstep. But we're not so far isolated from the larger metropolitan centers that students can also enjoy everything that those larger cities have to offer. So Toronto is just 2 hours east of us. Ottawa is 2 hours west of us. And so it's just a day trip away to be able to experience those areas. And in fact, our boarding students who come visit us often and do spend quite a lot of time in Toronto. But then it's nice to retreat from the larger urban settings and come back to a smaller city like Belleville. As I said earlier at the outset, we're a smaller school, and by virtue of our size, students can't help but get to know one another very, very well. And I think you're going to hear that from the students when they talk to you from their perspective. I've worked at many other schools, and I've never seen before a school where students are peers with students in different grades than they themselves. So typically you would find in a larger school, grade 12s hang out with the grade 12s, 11s with the 11s, and so on. But because we are smaller, in order to be able to field a soccer team, for example, we have students in various grades on those teams. So an example is our very recent senior girls soccer team, who actually won gold in their division last week. Typically, students are 16 and 17 on that team. We had students as young as grade 8 on that team brought up. And so it just forms these bonds because everyone gets to know each other very well. The teachers get to know the students, even students that aren't in their classes. We follow the Ontario curriculum, so that means that students graduate with an OSSD, the Ontario Secondary School Diploma, but we consider that kind kind of the basement, not the ceiling, meaning that we add on top of that. And that, of course, is a reference to our 5 A's, which I'm sure you've seen on our website: academics, the arts, athletics, active citizenship, and adventure. And that just speaks to our philosophy of graduating well-rounded students that have experiences in all of these areas. So I'm gonna stop my comments there. I'm sure you want to hear from the parents and the other students. And the last thing I'll comment on is the international nature of our school. We're preparing students for the 21st century and getting ready for the global community. What better way than to have them, elbow to elbow with students from around the world, sharing their backgrounds with each other. So that's it from me. I'll stick around if there's any questions in the chat, but thank you again for joining us, and I'll turn it back to you, Heather.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Muska. As a university prep school, we really wanted to focus on some of the benefits of attending our small school, but we want to get the perspective, as I said, from our AC family. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to some of our panelists first this morning. So Miss Mareja Duffus is not only a current parent, but a former board of governors member as well. Her son Dante, who you'll hear from shortly, is currently in grade 10, and he is joining us this morning. Franziska, or Franzi, as we like to call her, Schimmel, has joined us this year in grade 11. And she was originally only coming to Canada for 1 year for a cultural experience. And we're very happy to report that she has changed her mind and she is coming back with us next year to graduate from Albert.College. Mr. Jesse Vazquez. He's our house director of our senior boys residence, Graham Hall. Jesse has worked at other independent schools in the past, and we are extremely pleased that he's here and with us now at Albert.College. Dante, as I said, he is one of our, I'd almost call a lifer, as we say. He is a day student who has been with us at Albert since grade 1, and he joins us here from Belleville. So without further ado, let's get started. So Mareja, I'll start with you, okay? You originally sent Dante here in grade 1 as a day student, and then he recently attended another school overseas for 2 years for the cultural experience. He returned this year in grade 11. So how do you think his time here prepared him for being off on his own, even though he was a day student with us?
Thanks, Heather. Thank you so much for inviting me to participate. It's my absolute pleasure. Albert prepared Dante for all of the experiences that he's had over the last 2 years from grade 1, really. All of the experiences, all of the support, and valuing his gifts and helping him to support him to go through made him really well prepared for year 10, grade 9, when he went to France with a UK curriculum. And the expectation was, we were told that because the UK curriculum was much more challenging universally, that Dante might struggle a little bit to transition. No transition issues at all academically for Dante. No transition issues at all for him going into a boarding situation, because Albert in the middle school had prepared him so well with academics, with all of the arts, with all of the different aspects of the school, that he fit in quite well. I think the only transition was that he wasn't staying home for meals, and I think that might have been a better thing all around. But Albert.College prepared him to tackle a very challenging curriculum. The teaching style is very different, and he became much more flexible about how he was able to handle that. And he could put his hand up and say, "Mom, you're off," but I don't think so. But he was well prepared for what is considered to be challenging academically. He came top 5 over the last 2 years in the final of his year 11 in the school. So that tells you that it did not take anything for Dante to transition, and Albert certainly made it easy for him to do that with all of the work that was done, not just academically, but socially, as well as he played his instruments there and sang. So I think that was also a very good thing.
Great, thank you very much. So Franzi, we'll hop over to you next. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you came to Canada?
So sorry. I'm Franzi. I'm 16 years old. I am from Germany, and I came here because I have family in Toronto. And as Miss Kidd said, I just wanted to do something like a year abroad, have the cultural experience, just like improve my English. And then I did decide to stay, and I'm very happy with that decision. And I initially came here because you don't have to share rooms in Albert, which is great, let me tell you. And also because of the familiar surrounding, and because Albert is very welcoming and very, very easygoing, although I applied very, very late last year.
Well, luckily for us, we did have a cancellation and therefore we were able to take you. So we're very happy that we did. So what have you appreciated most about being at Albert, despite being here in the midst of a pandemic?
The first thing I really appreciated was camp because we were able to go to camp this year. Not the first 3 days of school as it usually happens, as it will be next year, I believe. Um, but that was great fun, although we had a lot of rain. And then what I also really, really appreciate is all the caring staff. Everybody cares about the students as individuals and cares about their feelings, and they also will notice if something's up with you and will ask and will always be happy to help you. And they are very approachable as well, which I really appreciate. Since being in a boarding school was a very new experience for me. I was in public school back home. So that really helped me settling in and like just feeling like I'm home. And other things are that all the staff and I guess also the prefects and students tried their best to make this year as normal as possible. We had things like AC Superstar, which is like a school talent show. It was a lot of fun. Just a couple weeks ago, we went ice skating for fun at the rink. We had an online carol service, which I really enjoyed. I actually watched the whole thing, and I'm really excited to see it live next year. And we also had a couple of guest speakers, which I loved because we didn't do that sort of stuff at home. Um, and that was great fun as well. And just like meeting new people every day from all around the world. I just love it.
Great, great. And we keep saying it's going to be so different next year because some of you have only been here during a pandemic and you're now starting to see, as you said, things are opening up and people are just like, I can't believe how great this is. So hopefully next year we're 100% back to where we need to be. Dante, let's go to you next. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to this point? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to this point.
Hi, I'm Dante, and as I was said before, I'm a grade 11 student, and I've been at Albert since I was in grade 1. I was born in Spanish Town, Jamaica, and my mom and I moved shortly after to Canada, and I have been living in Belleville ever since.
Perfect.
And I feel that my experience at Albert up until now has been a great experience, and I've had a very good journey. I've involved myself in the school community a lot, all the way back in grade 2 when I was chosen as the lead for a school play that was put on, and I really enjoyed that. I felt that, along with the prior experience just in the junior school, kind of kickstarted my experience in music, which has been a very important thing in my life all the way up until now. Albert has introduced me to so many different things, like my experiences with international cultures, where I meet new students from all over the world. It's introduced me to a multitude of sports. Um, just like this year, I've been able to play ultimate frisbee, and I had never played that before, and I thought that was really amazing. I've been able to bond with so many different students and learn about their personal experiences and how they learn and how they grow and apply that to myself and in my personal life. And so I find that is amazing.
Perfect. And you're a little bit taller than you were in grade 1, I can confirm. So although you're currently a day student, I do know there's been times when you've been able to stay in residence for a week or so while your mother was traveling out of town or for business. So how was that transition and what are some of the things that you did do when you were in residence during your time here?
I found that the transition from day student to boarding student for that short period of time was quite smooth. As my mom had said, I had 2 years prior experience as a boarding student overseas, so that helped a little bit. But I feel it was mostly the accommodation that Albert had made for me that made me feel so comfortable in that boarding experience. It can be hard for a day student to keep up with all their extracurriculars outside of school, along with the homework inside of school. And I felt that when I transitioned into boarding, it was not a trouble at all for me, mostly because I had planned with Mr. Vasquez before all the times and where I needed to go and all the people that would help me get to where I needed to be at that time. And so I felt because of that, it was quite a smooth experience. And along with my board mates, I bonded with my classmates quite a bit. I learned so many things from them, and I even managed to go learn to sing a song in Chinese from my fellow Chinese classmates,
Nice.
which I thought was quite awesome. So yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Mr. Vasquez, Jesse, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, folks. Thank you for welcoming me, Heather. A little bit about me is I'm from Trinidad originally, so born and raised in Marval, and this has been now my 11th year in Canada after immigrating. Came here for university, and as Heather mentioned, started to work in boarding, and then ended up at Albert. And I'm excited, as this is my first year in Albert, to learn and continue to see all the cool things that Albert does. And then probably the biggest piece of me is being a soccer fan or football fan. I have a little bit of a love story with football. You know, my honeymoon phase was playing, and now I'm in kind of my, the working phase of just learning the game and trying to become better.
Nice, nice. Well, we're very, very happy that you're here with us, Jesse. So as I mentioned, you're joining us from a much larger case school. So what do you see as the advantages or benefits of a smaller boarding program like we have here at Albert and a smaller town like Belleville?
Okay. So if I speak to the boarding program first, I think I use it in this kind of analogy that students go through moments. So as staff, we kind of capture those moments and try to build this big picture of what a student is going through, what challenges, what great successes they have. In a close-knit environment like Albert, there's more snapshots to be had. There's easier transition of information. And as house directors or as people who care about these students, we're able to build that picture. Like I hear from academics how a student is going. I hear from how they ate in the dining hall. I hear from how they did in the night. Their coach tells me they scored a goal or they did something amazing. I hear from guidance that they got into university. All that builds this big picture of how that student's doing on that day. And it's an amazing thing to see how easy that information flows. Because in this close-knit community, it's not like there's so many hurdles to go through to get information to someone. I don't have to sift through 98 emails to find something about Dante, or to learn that Dante is going out to do his cadets, or Dante is doing this. So I thought that was a pretty unique experience to Albert. And also you kind of recognize that more adults see the boarders too and see the students in general. More eyes, more contact points. I could say myself, I've had more interaction with students than I did in previous schools because of the nature of the school. We're heavily involved in their life, basically. And especially in boarding, we're involved for almost 24 hours a day in their life.
We are. Excellent. And I think you have a little bit of a soft spot for some of the Caribbean food that's offered here in Belleville too, right?
Just a little bit. I think the first thing when I was looking into Albert was, where's the places that I can get Caribbean food? And one of the first things that came up was in the market, they do a Caribbean vendor who brings double some old school Caribbean food. And then surprisingly, I started to go to almost every supermarket. I'm not ashamed to say that I ventured out on my time off to go there. I ended up finding this one aisle with Caribbean drinks, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna be home for the next 6 weeks, just drinking all of that and eating some good food. But I kind of also felt that I never felt that I missed anything from any other city in Belleville. Like I still had access to go find Caribbean food, or I still had access to go shopping or do the things that you would think, oh, maybe doesn't exist in Belleville because it's a smaller town, but I didn't feel that at all.
Excellent. And I think that's something that the parents, especially of boarding students, quite appreciate is, they're not sending their kids to this huge city. They're coming to this town where everybody knows everybody, but still have access to Ottawa and Montreal and Toronto. So I think it really is the best of both worlds. Marisha, we'll go back to you now. Why did you originally choose AC? And what do you think the biggest impact that it's had on Dante?
I chose Albert for the sole reason that we were 2 years in our local school and wanted him to be have French immersion, of course, give that opportunity. And 2 years in, I really decided that this was just not the place where a school wanted to engage a parent in the education of their child. He's my only son. I want to make sure that I do it right the first time. And so just a few things that occurred that I made me very uneasy. And I went looking for other schools and really just looking at public schools because I never thought much about a private school. And so one day, just quite frustrated, was driving on the other side of Belleville, and I really never go to that side, and saw this beautiful school or this beautiful building and looked and saw that it was a school, and literally happenstance just drove in, was invited into the school, no COVID at the time, so and felt completely welcome. The atmosphere was calm and peaceful. And then I had an opportunity to go across and to tour the junior school and saw just a wonderful environment. Kids were happy. They were skipping through the hallway. They were talking with each other, spoke to a couple of teachers briefly, and decided that I had to find a way to get him into this school, into this place, but I didn't know how. And so I spoke to finance, spoke to a few people, and they helped me to find a way so that I could afford to send Dante to Albert. Now, I know people don't talk about finances and so forth, but it was really important that it gave me a choice. Not everyone has that choice, but I was able to make that choice with the support to send him there. And we've not looked back, and I would never look back again. And I would say to anyone, if it's possible that you would want to have a choice of how your child's education goes, I would say that choice was just easy. It was easy now when you see all the things that have come out of Albert being there for Dante. And for me.
Wonderful, thank you. Franzi, I'm going to go back to you, and I'm just going to explain something first of all before I ask you your next question. So Dante and Franzi are two of our newest elected prefects for next year. And at Albert.College, a prefect is a very high honor, and it's something that students often, once they walk in the front doors, they're like, I want to be a prefect. So it's a leadership position within the school available to grade 12 students or students entering grade 12, and they're elected by their peers and by their staff. So for those of you on the call that weren't familiar with the prefect, I just wanted to add that first. And the reason I'm doing that is because Franzi is our new Victoria Manor or Girls Residence Prefect. So we're all very excited. So I have a two-part question for you, Franzi. First of all, currently, even though we've been in the midst of a pandemic, what are some of the types of events and activities that you've enjoyed in residence this year?
Actually, we did like all types of activities. I remember the first thing, or it wasn't the first thing, but one of the first things we did was going paintballing with the boys. And I had never been, and I was really nervous and like scared, but everybody hyped each other up, and it was a lot of fun. And we will go again actually in like 1 or 2 weeks. So you can see we do like action stuff, and we also do activities with the boys and also some without. They're just like exclusively for the manor. But even if it's like an exclusive manor activity or trip, we're still mostly allowed to invite day students or boys, friends. And one of my favorite things we did, like right the first weekend, I believe, was something in walking distance. We have a lot of things in walking distance, like axe throwing, cafes, and whatever. But one of my favorite things is the farmers market. That is here actually 3 times a week, so we can also go on our own. But it was amazing to just meet people and buy good food and talk to each other and just see Belleville for the first time, which is actually pretty cute. And then we also were able to go to sports games. We went to an ice hockey game that I unfortunately couldn't join because I was not in Belleville, but I heard it was pretty cool, and I'm excited to go next year because I've never seen an ice hockey game live because that's not big of a thing in Germany. And then we also went to a football or soccer game just a couple of weeks ago in Toronto, which was really exciting. Unfortunately, Toronto lost, but well. And we also do like event nights at the manor, and we cook together at the manor. We do game nights. We go to the movie theater actually a lot, which is great fun. And what I really appreciate is that the students have a say in what we're doing and can like suggest ideas. For example, the TFC game was a suggestion by a Graham Hall boy, and he also organized it together with Mr. Vazquez, I believe. I'm not sure. And we also went to a fashion show, which a girl from the manor suggested. And the manor staff sends out a survey annually where we can help plan and suggest activities and also give feedback.
Great. So now as the new incoming manor prefect, I'm sure you have a few ideas. Are there some different activities that you might like to implement when you're prefect next year?
First of all, yes. But first of all, I wanted to say that I loved all of the activities and that I would just have add-ons, not really anything I would want to take away. So what I would love to do next year, additionally to the farmers market on like the first weekend, is visit the pop-up stores or pop-ups at Zwix. Zwix is the local park, which is like 5 to 10 minutes away. And they're just like cute little pop-ups. It's mini golf, it's pizza, it's coffee, it's smoothies, it's all sorts of things, and it's really cute. It's directly by the water and by the big blue and red Belleville sign. So that would be really cute to see. And then I've also noticed that the girls loved working with fabric, or in general, like making things that they can take back to their room. So I had an idea to like paint your clothes with bleach, or do half and half sweaters. So you have 2 sweaters and you just cut them in half, and then you put them together and they look really cute. So they're like 2 colors. Make your own jewelry, make your own decorations, like door decorations, because all our doors are like decorated and cute. We like have all our names on it. I love it. And then what I'd also really like to do is visit the Humane Society, the local Humane Society, in their new building, because they just are building a really, really big new building right now. And we're working with them already. We're able to go there on the weekends and take care of the animals for volunteer hours. And one other thing I would love to do more is county trips. So as Mr. Muska said, Belleville is located right above the Prince Edward Island, which is really beautiful. And this year we went to Picton, which is really cute little town. It's really beautiful. It's actually pretty touristy as well. And I'd love to visit other things in the county next year. For example, the sandbanks where you can go swimming. They're just like beautiful. You feel like you're in California or something. And go swimming or whatever.
Great. Yeah, Prince Edward County actually is, a hop, skip, and a jump away from us, and beautiful beaches and quaint restaurants and different shops. So I know that the girls really had fun recently when we went there. So Dante, I'm over to you. So you heard Mr. Muska mention our 5 A's, and that's really what Albert.College is all about. So tell me, what is your favorite A and why?
So as the future arts prefect for 2022-2023, I have to say that my favorite A at AC is arts. Not only because I am the future arts prefect, but because arts is an incredibly important part of my life. As I had mentioned before, I sing, I play the piano, I play the saxophone, and I found that at Albert, there are so many possibilities for a student to show the artistic capabilities that they have to their peers and to their teachers and really spread their wings in the learning. And so I found that along with the classes that are provided, like music and voice studies, there are so many other opportunities for students. For example, recently there was an AC Superstars for the middle school and also the senior school, which, like Francie said, is a talent show for all the students to show their capabilities. Personally, I performed there the duet with one of the current prefects. Her name is Angie. And also, I played in a band with a bunch of my classmates and once again, Angie from the current prefects. As well, in the past, there were jazz and concert bands, and I participated in both of those. Those were during arts period. And then after school, there was Community Wins, which is basically where people from all over the community of Belleville and a little bit further came in to play with all the current students and other alumni. We're in one big band at Albert, and they performed at concerts that were held at Albert, and it was overall a really great time. And I learned so many things from all the alumni who played in that band and from the other students who were incredibly talented in that band. I also found that in the other aspect of arts, there is an arts competition that happens annually at Albert, and personally, I submit photography into that competition. Now, I haven't actually won yet, but I still really enjoy the experience and the chance to share my other artistic capabilities. And yeah.
That's great. Lots of opportunities, and again, with everything, hopefully being back to normal, we'll get those jazz bands and the community wins back, and yeah, it's a wonderful part of the school. So Jesse, we get students from all over the world here at Albert.College. As a house director, how do you ensure that everyone gets along when there's just so many different opinions and students from so many different countries and different cultures?
Oh, great question. I think it's about finding balance most times. A lot of it is the balance of this is their home, but it's also a place where you're going to be held accountable, not just to the rules or to the staff, but to yourself and to your peers. So a lot of it for me is starting out by listening and kind of learning what people are coming from and not making too many assumptions about their culture, their background, but instead getting to know them and challenging it a little bit and kind of saying, okay, I understand that this is where you come from and this is your outlook or your lens, but this is the lens we're going to create as a house. And I think it always starts with pillars, and we all buy into values. Values of respect is probably the biggest one, and the one that leads us through the ability to have quote unquote difficult or uncomfortable conversations about culture or about moments when someone does something that kind of gives us that bad feeling like, oh, I didn't know you did that action or that word. But it's powerful when we can kind of say, that kind of made me feel this way. And hopefully you're not going to do that in the future. And that comes from respecting each other and understanding that no one's perfect. Like I know I don't have all the answers in this cultural lens and how to have everyone be connected as a community. But what I will say is that the pillars and the values that we put in help us to create that kind of beautiful moments of learning, moments where you go walk into the common room and you see people from every race, religion, nationality, eating the same meal sandwich that has been prepped for us, or enjoying the games on the TV. Like, it's cool to see, but it all comes from those values and respect.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. Mauricia, as a parent of an AC student now entering grade 12 as a new prefect in September, what are you most proud of with regard to Dante's growth during his time here with us?
That's a big question, because I'm incredibly proud of so many aspects of what Dante has accomplished in Albert. He's listed off a fair amount of those, and I'm not going to go back, but Mr. Vazquez just touched on something that was really important: the values and how I have seen Dante grow and become a more confident person. He is willing to try anything. And I think that speaks to the Albert A's, where regardless, because it's a small school, but even if it's a small school, sometimes students don't want to do something and they're allowed not to do it. It's not about not allowing, but the invitation that the school provides that students try everything. And Franzi spoke about that, in coming and wanting to try all the different things that were there and being presented almost with a banquet in front of them that they get to pick from these variety of, it's not just academics for sure, because that's very important, but all of the athletics and the arts and all of the other aspects of Albert that Dante, I think, has grown. I love that he is becoming someone who other people will support, and that I see he supports his friends and his peers and participates, and he's fun. And I think that spills over also into other aspects of his life, where nothing is always, young people have their ups and downs, but I find that he is understanding now what his responsibilities are. He is taking accountability for all the things that occur. And I think there's a lot of growth, and I'm really proud that he is becoming a good man through the values and the support that we've had over the years with Albert. And that is really what I'm really proud of is how far he has traveled with Albert's support to become, I think, the man that I think he's going to become, which is empathetic and engaged and engaging with friends who I think enjoy being around him, and he enjoys being around all of the young people in Albert.College. I love being around Albert.College, so if I were young, I'd be there.
Thank you very much. Franzi, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Dante earlier. Which one of our 5 A's is your favorite, and why?
Yeah, what arts are to Dante, athletics are to me. So therefore, athletics for sure is my favorite of all the 5 A's, although, of course, I love all of them, and I appreciate get to experience all of them. But athletics is just my thing. And before I came here, I did a whole lot of sports, and I was out every day doing at least two different things: field hockey, horseback riding, golfing, whatever. So before I came here, I was a little bit worried I wouldn't be able to keep that up. In fact, I was proven wrong. I definitely was. Right, my first thing, we have 3 sports terms, and the first term I was able to play field hockey, which I, again, also played at home. So it really helped me to settle in, and since it's a team sport, I got to know a lot of girls and just was able to connect with them and create new friendships, which was awesome. This term, so this spring, I fell in love with track, which is something I had never really tried before, and I would not have had the same opportunities or facilities at home or the same support, because this support of my coaches brought me to be quite successful for my first year of track. And I just really appreciate that we have the choice of many different sports, and that if we want to, we can also do things besides. Like right now, I'm doing gym class plus track and field, which has really helped me just be happy, and I love it. And another thing I just really, really appreciate a lot is that Albert offers recreational as well as competitive sports. Because that way every student can find something that they want to participate in and that they can actually have fun with. And yeah.
Perfect. And you are certainly showing us that you are a track star, my dear, for somebody who has never done that before. So we're very proud of all of your accomplishments there. Dante, as a student, as we said, who's been with us since grade 1, what do you think are the most important takeaways that you've learned or gained from Albert? And what is your favorite memory or your best experience so far?
So I believe that the most important takeaways are that you work hard and you do the best that you can. You get the most of the chances that you're given, and that you try to learn from your mistakes. So what I mean when I say when I'm working hard and doing the best that you can is that your school experience is only what you make of it. So Albert gives you lots of chances and possibilities and things that you can do to learn and to grow in yourself and in your education. And those tools are only good if you try and you try hard to make them good for yourself and to work on them so that you can grow and you can become a better student and a better person. And what I mean by get the most out of the chances that you're given, like I said before, Albert gives lots of opportunities, and you just need to take those chances and leave your comfort zone and try new things, learn about new things, and and trying to learn from your mistakes. Obviously, people make mistakes. It's no mystery. But I feel that Albert himself is a great environment for making those mistakes and understanding. The teachers at Albert are incredibly approachable. They're nice. You're around them all day. So there isn't really any environment of tension or anxiety when you do something wrong. The teachers are incredibly supportive and they'll always set your mind at ease. And I'd have to say that my best memory so far at Albert is a little bit cheesy and it's not some grand memory, but I remember when I was in grade 4 and my class wasn't as interesting as I felt I wanted it to be. And please don't tell Mr. Fraser. I would look out of the window and I could see a view of the quad and the senior school. And I used to think about my future and the future possibilities of Albert because of how beautiful the school looked and how amazing it was and how excited I was to go into the senior school and to show everybody who I was and what I can do, to meet new people and to try new things and to really just become an amazing person, like so many of the amazing people that I've seen come in and out of the senior school.
That's not cheesy at all. You're allowed to say that.
Okay.
Jesse, with students, as we know, we have kids from all over the country here. So coming from so many different places, how are you able to determine what you actually do in residence? And can you describe some of the leadership opportunities that students have?
Sure. From the get-go, I think it's having that open conversation again, kind of saying, hey, what are your interests? So Franzi mentioned sometimes when students come up with these great ideas and then staff help to facilitate and make their little leadership opportunity come up, because they get to facilitate an event, to go see a TFC game, to go to a fashion show. And that's kind of organic because it's coming out of conversations. But then there's more formal ways that we can do it in surveys kind of at the start of the year or the year end and midway to kind of gauge what the interest levels are. We pre-plan as much as we can, but when they show up, it's kind of different because they're different personalities, different interests at that time. And it's good to have a base, but then it's nice to see when they do plan things for themselves. And in the opportunities for them for leadership, it's not just event planning or facilitation. We have a structured one where they help out in study. So it's a flat senior. Typically, they volunteer for it beforehand, and they kind of help out on their floor as a leadership role to kind of go around and do little mini study check-ins in and around the time that the person on duty is there, which is so helpful because it's almost like a mini person on duty that helps you in time and kind of goes around and kind of checks in when you're not always able to be present for that whole 2 hours. So you're bouncing around, but you always know that young Dante on 3rd floor is looking after the boys in their study. Kind of nice to have that student eye.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I think they do have organic moments. Like sometimes they'd go through the dorm and find things that they want to voice, like, hey, we left the water running too long in the kitchen sink. Okay, well, and then it's times when they can voice that opinion and be respectful. So they're taking their little bit of leadership over their home, which is nice to see. And then those little moments, I think, are more organic and less formal than we see and we put on paper. But those are great opportunities that they develop their leadership for the rest of their lives. Little pockets of individual growth that I would call leadership opportunities happen too.
Right. Very important for our students for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the question and answer period. So thank you to all of you for sharing your personal stories. As Mr. Muska said, we could all talk about Albert.College forever as employees, but we think it's very important to call on those who are directly affected by attending or living here at Albert.College. So I think Tracy has some slides she's going to show on there. We just want to go through a little bit about the application process, etc. And then at the end, if you have any questions, type them into the chat and we will try and help as much as we can. So just very quickly, we've talked about all the clubs and co-curricular activities. Our average class size is 15, which is very small. Our grads, 100% of our graduates go on to post-secondary school of their choice. And so we're still waiting. We don't have our stats for 2022. We're still waiting on a few acceptances. But one of the great things I think that our grads appreciate is they get 10 hours, approximately 10 hours of individualized counseling, guidance counseling for when they're making those very important applications for post-secondary. Application process, everything is available online. So you would complete an application online. We asked for 2 years of academic report cards. There's also a teacher evaluation that we require. We do have an entrance test that students write, and if they can't get here in person, then we can supervise it virtually. If you are an if you're an ESL student, we do have a language assessment that we have you write as well. And then in the end, we finalize everything with either a personal interview here or via video call. So we've learned to become very accommodating with technology during the pandemic. Very important question, our tuition and boarding fees. So we have a number of different fees available. So for international students, if you're on this call, we have middle school tuition and boarding fees, and then the grades 9 to 12. Some people ask, what is an expense account? Well, that's basically so students don't have to carry around cash. And so if they're buying, a piece of uniform, or if they're getting something from our tuck shop, they can sign for it and then it just gets charged to their account. We also have Canadian student boarding and tuition fees, and again, middle school and senior school. And then we also have our day student fees if we have any day parents on this call today. Marisha touched briefly on the financial aspect, and I really appreciate, Marisha, that you did that, because we really try to make this an Albert education available to as many people as we can. And being we're a small school, we can work with families if there's certain payment plans. We are very lucky as a small school to be able to award over $500,000 in aid annually to our students. Approximately 32% of all students here at AC are on some type of aid. So tuition assistance is based on need, and we actually go through Apple Financial Services. It's on our website. It's also here. So it's a third-party company. Most of the Canadian independent schools also use Apple. So you send in your information, they do an analysis, they send that back to us with a recommendation of how much aid they feel is warranted, and then we present that to our financial aid committee and try to distribute that aid to as many families as possible. We also have scholarships, which are based on merit. So we have scholarships from grade 7 to 12. You still complete the full application process, admission process, but there is a scholarship application. There's also a rubric included with that on the website, and you can see we're looking for students who are involved in all of those 5As, 5A areas that we talked about. Again, our committee will review the scholarships and then try to determine aid to as many students as we possibly can. Post-secondary, I touched on this earlier. I think it's really important, the fact that, our students get such personalized attention from our guidance counselor. And, we get an average of 8 acceptances, our students do. So they really do have choices of where they are going to go and what their future looks like. And so that is everything that I have here. We will open up to some Q&A if you have any. Please, if there's anything that you would like to meet with any one of our enrollment associates, please send us a message. We would be happy to set up either an in-person visit or even a Zoom call one-on-one just to answer any more specific questions that you may have. So I will turn this over to Tracy, I believe now. Do we have any questions?
We do have one question for sure in the chat, and it reads, "Good morning. Wonder how Dante and Francie were able to transition to AC smoothly from curriculum standpoint. Example, how to transfer previous completed credits to make sure next year's course selections are done smoothly and timely." So I think maybe Heather, you have the answer to that.
Sure. So first of all, maybe Francie, coming from the German system to Albert.College, did you find it was a tough transition, or did you find the teachers, everybody was able to really help you with that transition?
For sure, everybody was able to help me with this transition. For me, academically, it wasn't a hard transition. For me, what was harder was just the teaching style, not because it's like any better or worse, just because it's very different. We just have very different school systems, Canada versus Germany. But I was really helped a lot, and the teachers knew that I wasn't used to it yet, so they also respected that and just tried to help me. And for the credits, for me, that was no issue. Miss Purdy, our assistant of school, just handled that for me, and I got granted all the credits I needed, or I would have gotten if I was here. I didn't get any extra credits because I know you can take extra credits when you're in grade 8 or something. But for sure, I just got everything I need, so I'm able to graduate next year. That was not an issue at all.
Right, and you're right. Miss Purdy, our assistant head of the senior school, works very closely with guidance. And if you're coming from different countries, depending on what courses you've taken, we get your transcripts. That's why we ask for the report cards. Then we're able to give equivalent credits, because maybe you aren't taking exactly the same course or stream that you would here, but that's something that our guidance and academic office work very closely with all of the students. And as you said, in particular, when students come to us, for example, from Germany for 1 year, there's very specific requirements for them to be able to re-enter their schools back in Germany when they leave here, especially if they're only coming for a year. So really it's nothing that you need to worry about. It's something that we take care of from this end. And again, because we're an international school, our teachers know that we have kids coming from all over the world, and they work with our students and, ensure that that transition is smooth, whatever system they're coming from. I don't know, Mr. Muska, did you have anything to add to that, or is that?
No, I think you hit it nail right on the head. Maybe Dante has a comment about his credits when he came from Europe and coming back here. I imagine it would have been the same as Francie. You would have been granted equivalency credits. So even though you might not have been here for grade 10 math, let's say it was called something different where you were granted the Ontario grade 10 math on your transcript.
Yeah. Perfect.
So the follow-up to that question is, my daughter has some concerns. Is she need to redo some courses? So I think we've covered it, that there will be transition credits for whatever you've taken at your home school.
Great.
I don't see any other questions in the chat at this point.
Wonderful. Well, and luckily our power is still on, even though it's thundering and lightning and pouring rain outside. So again, thank you so much to all of our panelists who joined us today and took a few moments with us. We really appreciate it. And again, it's just very important, I think, for prospective families to really hear firsthand from our parents, from our students, to see how they feel. And now that we have opened up, again, we welcome you to come for a visit if you're able. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We would love to welcome you with a one-on-one tour. And again, if you're not able, we would certainly love to meet with you one-on-one over Zoom to try and answer any questions you have. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And we hope you learned something new to take away from this today. So thank you.